Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. School Committee Chair report. I just would like to take this opportunity to point out the relocation of our Crocker students today went, I'm told, very well at the Passio School as well as St. Anthony School. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the superintendent, his staff, and all of the teachers and officials who helped in that relocation. It was truly indicative of a collaboration that is not felt anywhere else. People think this is odd. This is a given. It is not. It is not. There are school districts where they would not have been able to have made this happen. And again, this is all based on unprecedented weather events. More than 10 consecutive days of sub-zero temperatures. And we will be convening the Building Needs Subcommittee tomorrow, along with the superintendent, and we'll be talking about what happened, when it happened, how we can prevent it from happening again. So that we're taking a proactive approach, as we have in most capital issues regarding the school department. So I just wanted to, again, publicly thank the superintendent and his staff and all the individuals who put this together. Also thank the St. Anthony School Administration, or I should say the church administration, and Superintendent Loxie Joe Combs in Lunenburg, who once again, and Loxie's been around a long time. She and I have known each other for a number of years. She just just continues to demonstrate what a terrific individual she is, and as well Heather Lemieux, the town manager at Lunenburg. We spoke this morning, very, very helpful, and we appreciate their assistance in this matter. And I mentioned to Ms. Lemieux that I owe her one, and hopefully, she said, hopefully it's not going to be the same situation. I said, no, you're right. Let's qualify that, of course. But again, thank you all, and we'll move on to Resource Committee.
No report.
No report.
And you've given building.
Okay, thank you. So School building needs, we already talked about that. Policy Committee. Ms. Cragen?
Yep, we briefly met to approve minutes. Given that our school committee is currently understaffed,
right.
When we lost Juana and we lost Marisa for policy. So we might think about what to do in the interim before we have the joint committee meeting with the city council and determine who the new folks to join us are.
Right. Thank you. Ms. Jeannie Laval-Pierce, Student Support Committee Chair.
Thanks. We met on December 7th, and items on the agenda included looking at the district improvement plan. We made a recommendation that that be available online, asking how many staff in the schools look at that district improvement plan. We talked about para coverage and looked at what still needs to happen in terms of hiring, and there was another BCBA that was hired in the district. We decided actually at that meeting that we're going to continue to have a social emotional learning component on the student support agenda so that we can continue to revisit some of the initiatives that the school's done. We are going to have a report in the spring about drug education programming across the district. Pam Rivers will be really heading that up. And we had an update about Ms. Cragen's pet therapy programs in the schools and the expansion of those. So that was what we covered. We don't have a new date set yet, as Sally mentioned, where we've lost a committee member as well. But I know that we would like to, I'd like to get us in just to at least kind of get a follow-up on how things are actually going for the transition of the students in the new schools. So there'll be more information about that at some point.
Right. Questions from the committee? None? School personnel, really nothing to report at this time. Executive committee, there is no need for executive committee report. We mentioned the building needs situation, and we're going to be addressing that tomorrow. And we have a student report with 2 new reps coming in for the new year. Thank you. That would be Matthew Croach and Lisa Pavan. Welcome.
Yeah, hi.
Go ahead.
So, there's a lot of things currently going on at Fitchburg High School. For example, this week, on January 11th, there's going to be a National Honor Society induction ceremony held at the auditorium at 7. We will also be having an early release on January 17th. We have advisory January 11th and January 26th, and the class of 2022 Honors Academy placement testings will be held soon, and we also have an upcoming winter ball January 27th.
Wait, you have a what coming up? A what?
Winter ball?
Winter ball, huh?
like a
Where's that going to
dance.
be?
The cafeteria, I'm assuming.
There you go.
It's really
Alrighty.
nice. They decorate it nice.
Is that
and
for all
all grades?
grades? That's great. It sounds like fun.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so it looks
Matthew,
like I'll
yeah.
I'll be reporting on the rest of the news. Midterm exams are coming up, so that's definitely something that we're looking into prepping the students for. I don't know exactly how that's going to occur, but so that information is a bit vague. So I guess I have the schedule right here. I don't know if you guys are interested in that at all. So-
Yeah, they start Friday, is that what you're saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
They start January 12th, as far as it says on here, and B and C, so those will be the first 2 blocks. And then the next day would be, the next school day would be the Monday. That's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so we will be obviously not in school that day. Tuesday, there would be G and A, so that would be the next 2 periods. Wednesday would be E and F, so those are the 2 other ones. And then Thursday would be the last one, so that's D period. Okay, so that's it for midterm exam. Are there any questions?
Is it hard that you lost a couple of days with the snow to review? Like, our teachers kind of talking
I
about,
would leave
let's
that up
rush
to the
it.
teachers.
Yeah. Good choice.
Personally, I would, as a student, I would say just take some time to recover. It felt like 2 breaks, and depending on, what type of midterm exam you have, definitely take that into consideration and how you can prep for the midterm exam, because it is a big thing. For some people, it's a final exam, and for some people, it's a midterm exam, and it counts heavily toward your grade, of course. So we should take that into consideration. The alumni panel, I'm not a senior, I'm a junior, but that did occur recently, January 3rd. It is an annual tradition as far as I'm concerned and as far as I know. So what happens is they welcome back recent alumni who are currently in college, and they kind of reflect on their experiences, their current experiences in college, and how they're doing, and it's more of like just contemplation, and they ask questions. That's as far as I know, because I wasn't there for it. But it did take place with the class of 2018. I think that's it, right? During the period in the auditorium. So again, I don't really know what specifically happened, but you could ask a senior. So, yeah.
We may do that later.
Very nice touch.
But I think that is really all. If you have any other things that you want us to add toward our student report, we'd be glad to do that. Part of what I want in my student report is what you all, could request to us.
Good.
Because we don't just want to report news that some of you may not care about, or
We
it's
care about
redundant.
it all.
Yeah.
We really do.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Email us, or.
and I'm happy you're going through midterms and I'm not. I never looked forward to those.
Though we are being tested.
does. Yeah, that's right.
You
Anyways.
So,
I have a comment.
yes,
If you guys could put your email and your phone on this paper, and we'll make sure that central office has it and that we do as well. We have subcommittee meetings, which I think you would find really interesting. Some of them take place in the late afternoon, some take place at other times. I'm sure you're way busier than anyone else in this room. But you should know that you are very much invited, as are all members of the public. So we've got our facilities meeting tomorrow from 3 to 4. If you're free, come to central office, South Street, and then we'll share our contact information with you guys.
Okay.
Patty can do all that. I can have Patty get all that information and share it with you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so just do email and phone, and then.
And I think that's it to conclude, right?
Yeah.
So
other
that is
than-
it to conclude.
there was some sports in this,
And
too.
do you want to talk about sports? We could talk about sports, I guess. Okay.
Yeah.
Girls basketball, Tuesday, January 9th versus Shepherd Hill at 7 p.m. Boys/girls swimming is Wednesday, January 10th.
It's Gardner.
Versus Gardner at 3:30 at Fitchburg State University. We have indoor track, which is Wednesday, January 10th. So they're all very close together, which is interesting. Versus Groton Dunstable at 5 p.m. Boys/girls swimming, I guess, again on Friday, January 12th. So there's another game there. Versus
Tantasqua.
Tantasqua. That's also at Fitchburg State at 3:30. There's ice hockey, Friday, January 12th, versus Gardner. 4:30 at Wallace Civic Center. I'm sure that's in Fitchburg.
Yeah, it is in Pittsburgh.
Okay. And with boys basketball, which is Friday, January 12th, versus Groton Dunstable, that's at 7 p.m. And
yeah,
that's
that's about
it
it.
for the sports news.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. You know, I don't want to forget that we want to say thank you to Brianna Harnden, who's here tonight. She is the former student rep, and Hannah Wilder. Hannah, thanks, guys. Great job. We'll miss you. We got two new people coming in, and go on your way. That's it. You're graduating this year, right? Yes. This is it, right? There you go. On to bigger and better things, huh? You're going to have to come back and let us know where you're going to be ending up next year, whether it's school, work, or military, what have you. We're all good. Thank you, and thanks for your efforts.
Hope you'll be one of
As the
those
rep.
students coming back for the alumni. And
That's right. Yeah. Okay, any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, moving on to approval of the minutes from the previous school committee meeting, December 4th, 2017.
Motion to accept them.
Motion made to accept. Do I hear a second? Second. Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? It is unanimous. Approval of the minutes from school committee's executive session. Approval of the executive session committee meetings of April 5th, 2010, September 17th, 2012, October 17th, 2016, and November 20th, 2017. Do I hear a motion? Motion made.
Bree,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't let them leave.
Go.
Bree, don't leave yet.
Oh, don't leave. Yeah.
Sit down.
Motion to accept them.
Motion made and seconded to accept those minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed is unanimous. No need for executive session, I don't believe.
Yep.
Communications,
Sure, I've got a couple of items.
Okay.
So we have been doing an ongoing community project, a couple of them. One of them has been to raise funds for the 8th grade Washington DC field trip. And I'd love to put it to our new student reps. We are doing donation boxes that are at various places around the city. And we also had a storytelling event at Zeta's last Friday. And we had one person come in and write a very substantial check, which was fantastic, and we made some money for that otherwise. But we'd love to put it, for you guys who have been to Washington DC, you know, how can you help this community effort? Gomes Liquors has been unbelievably wonderful in terms of getting a lot of contributions, and I think we have one at Country Pizza. Bill McSheehy has really helped getting those boxes out there as well, and we have them really anywhere anyone who wants a donation box. So if you can think of a place, other places we should put them, or other fundraising that the 8th graders can do. Mrs. Fisher at Long Show is working so hard, you know, with Mr. Walker and Mr. Pack to, you know, have the kids do fundraising as well. But it is over $700 per student, and I think that putting it out to the community has been really meaningful and has brought in some returns. So we did have a very successful storytelling last Friday in conjunction with Fitchburg Historical Society, who was our co-sponsor, and that went really well. The other project we're working on, I'm working on with Eva Kelly and Paula Giaquinto, which is the pop-up libraries. These are boxes, lidded boxes, that are in various places around the city. I just talked to Juan, who owns Thumbs Up Barbershop, and he's very interested in having one, which is wonderful. But we're looking to place these in restaurants, in barbershops, and we have one at Sudsy Bubbles down at John Fitch Plaza. So any place where children are captive and have to wait for parents to do business, or for them to do business, we're looking to put boxes of books. And if kids take them home, it's really okay. This is just part of furthering the literacy, along with Footsteps to Brilliance, and we have brochures for that. So, and in fact, Mrs. Reynolds, this is another sort of community project that members of school committee are engaged in. And we happily, welcome your help and participation as well.
I might borrow a book.
Yeah, we got them.
Questions, comments? Yes.
So I'm not seeming to understand everything. So the books, where are these going to be in boxes?
So we have the boxes. The boxes have a label, and on the label it says pop-up library. And this is also, Fitchburg Library is a sponsor. Riverfront Family Theater is a sponsor, but Fitchburg Public Schools is the main sponsor. They put the boxes together. And Paula, can you talk about the books that are in the boxes?
Surely. So, Mrs. Cragen brought it to our attention that there are places in the community, like barbershops or laundromats, where families go because the parents have business, but there's really nothing for the children who need to go with their parents to do. So while they're waiting for the dad to get a haircut, we thought, wow, we can set up a bookshelf. Well, looking at the research, there are little free libraries. That's a national movement, but that's a very formal, to be called a little free library, you have to get permission and work through them. So instead we said, well, why don't we just create these little mini libraries that pop up in the community? So we have usually plastic tubs, and we pack them with, is it about maybe a dozen to 2 dozen books
Easily.
of all kinds. Some of them are picture books so that little kids can read them. Some are more interesting. They're not big chapter books, and they're usually not adult, kind of the regular adult literature. So if families and children read them while they're there and put them back in, that's great. If some student says, I haven't finished, Mom, and I want to take it home, because part of our mission is to have every family in this community have a home library. So when we run programs through the school department, we give books away. We have a big book swap breakfast coming up in 2 weeks, two weeks. On a Saturday, we'll have notices. So this pop-up library idea is to really help further the cause of community literacy. And if it's in a restaurant, a barber shop, we're looking for ideas, and Mrs. Cragen is really the one who's been out there knocking on doors saying, would you like a pop-up library? The tubs are maybe this big and this high. They're
small.
They're small. I mean, so they don't take up much room.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you seen them?
No.
There's one actually in the central office that when parents come in to enroll their children and they bring their children with them, it takes a long time to fill up the paperwork. So we have a pop-up library right there at South Street so that children can read books while they're waiting for parents to do all the paperwork. So,
Are you guys accepting book donations anywhere for this?
yeah, we would take,
You can send them to central
yeah,
office.
Mrs. Kelly over there in the corner. She's the enrollment director and the person who works through the Title I program to work with parents. So she's the person who would take donations, all kinds of children's books.
Also, for the DC students, are they doing any fundraisers? Because I recall when I was in 8th grade, we used to sell chocolate, and that was a really good way.
Yeah, that does continue. The chocolate drive does, and then at Memorial they were selling peanut butter. I'm looking forward to trying mine. But they're doing all of that amounts to only so much money.
Yeah.
See, here's the thing, and if you sold the chocolates, I mean, you have to
Because it's
sell
half. It's you keep half of the profit, and you have to give the other half back or something like that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So when I say that we're open to fundraisers, I would love it if someone wanted to do a bowling, like a bowling night or something, because that's another great way of generating funds. I mean, and again, the mindfulness in the high school, if you guys love that Washington DC trip, did you both go on it?
I did. I don't know about Matthew. Yeah, we both
Okay.
went. It
Great.
was fun. Yeah.
It is. My mother went on it in 1948 from B.F. Brown, and my son just went on it last year. So if there's the mindfulness within the high school of those of you who loved it, think about what you can do to help kids continue to go, so we can continue to make this happen. So
That'd be nice. I know like some restaurants could probably have a night, or I know actually Barnes and Nobles. I know you guys want to get like reading up and out. The other day I went to Barnes and Nobles, and I think Lunenburg, it was like you get a discount with every book you buy, and like a select portion of the money goes to Lunenburg High School. So it'd be good if maybe you guys can like talk to Barnes and Nobles and set up like a
Well, here's
night
the
or something.
Well, and
Just
here's
an
the,
idea.
or National Honor Society, again, if you guys wanted to take this on as a project. I know that I just set up for the Girls Basketball League to do the gift wrapping at Barnes & Noble. It was Friday, December 22nd. So they probably earned a few $100s doing that. There are these different fundraising opportunities in the region, but you guys think about what can you do? What could you do? What could you take ownership of, and what could you work with your classmates to maybe, hey, let's give back to these 8th graders? And so, there'll be a little more of a cushion and less anxiety, because I have talked to children at Longshow who are not going and who feel like they just couldn't afford it. And I know Mrs. Fisher and all the teachers are working really hard to help those kids who want to go.
Yeah.
So, but think about what you guys could do. We'd love it.
Speaking to the issue.
Yes.
Is the pop-up project, does that raise any money, or that's just educative?
It's just educative, it's not raising money.
So I had a thought as you were speaking about that, and I recall being in a certain school, and many, many books were being tossed out. And they were wonderful books. If I could have taken them all, I would have, So at a certain time of year when school libraries are undergoing changes, and certain books, that might be a source of some wonderful books.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps intercity rather than simply Fitchburg.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the librarian would have been delighted to have somebody want them, And I was also thinking of places where obviously you see children, around doctor's offices and things like that. I don't know if that would be a source of pop-up, a
So-
target.
So how we have this set up, if someone wants to take ownership, for example, Nicole Irvin, who is the children's librarian at Fitchburg Library, she made sure that Espressos has a pop-up library, and she's monitoring that directly. I had one at Il Ricordi, but John has since retired, so we had to take the one that he had out. But if you can think of a place you could go to, I know that you could work with Paula and Eva, get the box, it doesn't weigh that much, and bring it in. And we have a boilerplate letter that I can make sure you get. And then you just walk in with that, and I always have the boxes in my car. That's how I get them around. But we'd love that. Again, it's about taking ownership of these projects.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm just gonna keep it basic and fundamental. In regards to your gross fundraising, have you issued out any funding proposals at all with the DC trip?
So that would be a question more for Mrs. Fisher, because what happens is and in fact, you'll see tonight that we've got the Kentucky Valley Regional High School field trip. We basically give permission, the school committee does, to any field trip or any endeavor involving Fitchburg students that involves expenditures of money and all of that sort of thing. So I worked with Mrs. Fisher over the summer, and we came up with a strategic plan on what we would do to engage the community in the efforts to raise money. So we did a press release back in November, and that generated a pretty good-sized check from our local family, who was really happy to see that. Again, we're working with the mayor's office, we're working with the school department, and we're any business that wants to help. Little donation box. I should have brought one in to show you, but anyway. Yeah, I mean, those guys are they're doing the bulk of the majority. I feel like this is like the frosting on the cake, what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing them moving on, public comment. Anyone wishing to make a public comment You're limited to 5 minutes to do so. Does anyone wish to make a public comment? Seeing none, moving on. Superintendent's report. Superintendent Ravenel.
Okay, I would first like to invite our two former student reps to come up. Brianne and Hannah, and share a little bit with the committee of what your experience was like being a student rep. The highs and the lows.
Well, when I offered to be on this school committee, I kind of just wanted a way to get involved with Fitchburg a little bit more, because I've never really done any, haven't done a lot of community involvement. So this was a really good opportunity for me to kind of pay attention to what's going around at Fitchburg High a little bit more, kind of talk to more people and learn about different events of, like band, different sports, different clubs, extracurriculars that I kind of never really would pay attention to otherwise. So I'm really appreciative that I got the opportunity to learn more about Fitchburg and kind of be more involved and try to focus more on the positive things that Fitchburg High and Fitchburg Public Schools are doing, because I think it's a very special community and it was very fun to be a part of.
Thank you. What's Lisa?
I think this experience was not only good for the community service opportunity, but it's just given me a chance to really immerse myself in the local government and to see, how every opportunity that we get as students at Fitchburg High actually happens. Because I know I didn't really think this much effort went into all everything that we do and all of the the advantages we get with SAT waivers and all that. But yeah, the knowledge I gained from this, I can definitely take really far, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you.
And we have a token of our appreciation, actually 2 tokens, your name tags, so that when you go off to college, you will know who you are. And so that's so you know who you are. And then we have a little gift for you so you'll remember where you came from. Because these are Fitchburg Public School scarves for you to wear.
Ooh.
So there you go.
Thank you.
I got it right? Yes. Congratulations. And congratulations, and thank you so much for everything you did, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Yep.
That was nice.
And we have all kinds of new people here tonight. We have a new recording secretary, Judy Greenlees, and if the name sounds familiar, it's because it is familiar. This is Tabitha's mother. So we could have musical accompaniments with our school committee meetings, because Mrs. Greenleaf is there all the time at all of the events and all of the musicals, and we're just really happy to have you with us, and I know that you're going to find this interesting. So good. Welcome. And we have tonight, in terms of students, we have Landon Tucker and Sage Bray that are going to come and talk to us about the Fitchburg High Current Events Club. So, welcome.
I hate the comment.
Thank you, everybody. I was going to pass out a flyer for our upcoming fundraiser. The date's wrong. It's this Friday, not last month. Sorry about that, guys.
It's all right, we'll share it. Yeah, that's all right. We got it. We got it. Yeah, Tom. Right.
And what is the fundraiser? I think I saw
Yeah,
what it
the
was.
fundraiser that's coming up this Friday is we're going to be duct taping Mr. DiGeronimo, our assistant principal, to a wall. And it's a fun and engaging activity. We had ran one earlier in the year with Mr. Roach, and he was a good sport about it, and it really got the students of Fitchburg High involved that really I don't think would get involved in many other opportunities. You might not see some of the kids at a football game or a basketball game, but who doesn't want to tape their principal or assistant principal to the wall,
Right.
The first one that we ran raised about $253 to
Wow.
hurricane relief in Puerto Rico. And I founded the Current Events Club, and the reason why I started it was over the years at Fitchburg High School, I've seen many students who want to get involved in the community, but aren't able to find the opportunities. You know, they may come through the Honors Academy, or they may come through the National Honor Society, but for the students who aren't in those clubs and in those organizations, they don't have the opportunity as much as other students, which is why I created this club, this nonprofit organization, for all students to be actively engaged in not only their local community, but we can take it on to a national or global scale as well. And Sage here is our marketing director of the Current Events Club. He can fill you in on the movie night we had with Team Tiago.
Absolutely, yeah. So what was it? A few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we ran a movie night at Fitchburg High. We ran the Polar Express in our auditorium. Tickets were $10 a piece. What did we raise? About
$563.
$563. Wow. We teamed up with Team Tiago, which Nico Sosa, we go to school with him. He's in our grade. His little brother has been battling with cancer for a while. They have their own foundation, Team Tiago. We teamed up with them, made the movie night about them. We gave them a bunch of donations to donate to their charities and their different situations like that. It went really well. We raised a bunch with concession, too. We ran it on a night of a basketball game, so we got all the concession, too. But, yeah, no, that went really well with the movie nights, the movie rights and everything like that. That one went really well.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Mayor Tina Talley for a generous donation of $100 to the movie
did?
night. Yep.
No, I'm kidding.
No, we greatly appreciate it. I know Team
Good.
Tiago
I'm
is
glad.
greatly appreciative too. A lot of that money went right back into the UMass hospitals for pediatric cancer patients.
I couldn't make the
That's fine.
film night. Polar Express. I don't know what that is. but, no, I'm kidding.
We've been living it.
My kids know what it is. I didn't know it.
Grandchildren now.
Yeah, I've got grandchildren. Right,
You're going to be
Polar Express.
living the Polar Express for the next
Throughout the
couple of years.
lunches for this. When are the lunches?
It runs. The first time we ran it, we tried to host it during a pep rally.
Yeah.
It'd be a quick thing, but unfortunately, time management with all the other events, we didn't get to do it. So Mr. Roach was willing to get taped during all lunches, which is about 2 hours.
So it starts like what, 11 o'clock?
11 o'clock
Yeah.
to 1.
Wow.
To 1.
Till 1,
Okay.
yeah. And he was a good sport about it. And he said his feet got a little tired by the end, but
Pulled his phone out, was checking his email during it.
I was trying to reach him for 2 hours, and I could not reach him.
So is he going to be sitting down or something, and you're taping him to the
yeah,
wall? I mean, what?
Stands
we
up.
might ask him what his personal preference is this time. Mr. Roach decided to stand, but I mean, if he wants to sit in a chair,
Chair, you stood? Yeah.
him some advice.
Yeah.
Keep your circulation.
all the money we raised this Friday is going to the restoration of Crocker Field.
Oh,
Yay.
excellent.
So we decided that a great way to just
Excellent.
put all the money right back into our own community.
Good. All right, yes,
Guys,
Mr.
your
Bell Pierce.
level of engagement and enthusiasm is wonderful. It's just, I'm so glad to hear it. And I'm curious on the Current Events Club, how often do you meet? And are you talking politics? Are you doing international issues? Like, what's the format of the content piece?
It's pretty broad. We meet every Thursday in Mr. Perillo's room at FHS, and right away, I'm the president, but I told everyone in the club that I didn't want it to be like a dictatorship. I didn't want to come to a meeting and tell them this is the event we're doing and this is why. The first about 2 to 3 weeks or so was about each member going out and finding their passion. Not necessarily a community service event, but something they loved and something they wanted to contribute to and present it back to our club. And hopefully, we've gained a huge list of ideas and opportunities, and we've reformed them into these different ideas like duct taping the principal, the movie night, and different things like that. So it was really about anybody finding their passion. It could really be anything. It has ranged from, raising awareness about littering to, cancer, anything like that. So it's very broad.
Thanks.
So we've just spent about 10 minutes talking about the 8th grade Washington, D.C. field trip. I wonder if any of the 8th grade D.C. faculty would be willing to be duct taped to benefit. Is that something you guys would be interested in?
Absolutely. I mean, even if we don't even have to be a part of it. They want to steal that idea. That's up to them. But we can definitely be a part of it and help out and raise awareness in any way
Well,
that you want us to.
Well, you know what? Let me talk to them because if it happening at the high school, there's so many more people at the high school.
Yeah.
And I think they're a little more in the way of disposable income and stuff. But that would be a way that the high school could help the Washington, D.C. Field trip
Definitely.
in terms of both awareness but with the fundraising. Because those are really substantial sums, and I love that you want to give it back to the community. Kudos. I can't wait to hear what you guys are doing next.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can also coordinate and do a fundraiser strictly for the 8th grade DC trip. I know me and Sage went on it, and it was honestly a great time.
Good.
You learned so much about history, American history, anything, I found that was like a very focal point in my education, in my public education through Fitchburg Public Schools was going on that trip. So any way that we could, find a way to give back would be amazing.
Thank you.
We will help you do that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I just want to join there also that Landon was recognized by the Rotary and was one of the speakers, and after he spoke, the Rotary said to me they couldn't remember a speaker of the quality of what tied in the volunteerism of the Rotary, the Interact Club, all the kinds of things. I mean, it was so well done and, with such passion that you represented us very, very well.
Thank you.
And I'll throw myself out there as being
a lot of
duct taped
duct tape,
for
though.
2 hours right now looks really good.
We'll each take a roll.
So I'm
KP.
doing that. I'm throwing myself out there publicly. If it helps to raise money for the DC trip or whatever else,
Is there a?
give me a
This
call.
isn't what we were using. Is it?
Yeah, you can start it now.
Yeah, somebody, is that, well, I think they're just using that to tape up.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
If you don't mind me
Thanks, guys.
filling
Yeah.
you guys in, I talked a little bit
Go
about
ahead.
the Interact Club. It's also a club I'm in, but right before Christmas time, we purchased 40 blankets for the McKinney Vento kids that we gave out right before Christmas time, and then NHS made 15 little bags full of different types of foods and stuff for the kids who were less fortunate for over the vacation. So I thought that was something you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if it got out there, the word got out there, but it was a very good effort from everyone in the Fitchburg High community, just trying to give back to our own students, and
Thanks, guys.
That's
no
great.
problem.
Thank you.
I always say people that talk to me that they're worried about the future, and I said, well, you haven't been in Fitchburg, and you haven't seen the students that we have in our schools, because when I listen to them talk, I'm not worried about the future at all. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thank
Thanks,
you guys.
guys.
Great job. Some of you may remember that when Doug Grant arrived, he had been working with a group at the school he was at before and taking students to MIT for the Ocean Science Bowl.
Yeah.
And I think we're in year 4. So Jeremy Roach is here to, there's a field trip to prepare scrimmage, so that we've been doing a pretty good job of competing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this field trip, Jeremy.
Yeah, so Doug Grant is our ocean science team coach, and he had approached me about the idea of setting up a scrimmage with Contoocook High School, which I believe is a regional high school. I know it's in Peterborough, New Hampshire. He had experience competing with them, and from what he's described to me, they're the sort of one of the strongest programs in that ocean science team league. And the way it works is apparently Massachusetts has its own competition, and then Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont combine to do one up in at Orono in Maine. So, I said, well, let's go through the process. It sounds great, and from his perspective, our team gets better and better. They do the Blue Lobster Bowl competition at MIT, and it's usually the first. It's either the last weekend in February, first weekend in March, and being able to do the scrimmage, with a team that you won't be competing against is particularly valuable. Like you often do in athletic scrimmages, you scrimmage teams you don't actually play during the season. So. That's really the goal, and our team would go up there, they'd bring all the equipment, they'd go through the whole, it's a very competitive, if you've ever seen, it's kind of like high school quiz show with his teams. They have the buzzers, they get questions, they got to answer them in a certain period of time, boom, they buzz, It's super competitive. It's very advanced content, you know, as it pertains to marine biology and ocean science and things like that. So, you know, I'm here to advocate for it. I think it'd be a great opportunity for the team, for Doug, for the sub-varsity coaches that work with him, Laura Bolick and Steve Morse, and Ann Taft helps too. So.
They're just going in private vehicles, is that it?
So we can do it either way. I think that's what they would like to do, you know, because it's a relatively small group. I'd say 10 maximum, but multiple coaches and I think even a parent attending too. But I can certainly, you know, nail that down with Doug. If it's a larger group, you know, obviously we would submit for the bus. But that's what we had discussed, that they would transport, you know, privately.
Any questions?
Sounds good. Any other questions from the committee?
Okay.
Seeing none?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And I'm glad that Matt and Lisa are part of the team. I think they're going to be great in this
They
role.
are,
So.
definitely.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Chair.
That, this it's gonna be on January 14th. So you probably have it in your packet.
If I could explain for Mrs. Reynolds.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a field trip, Mrs. Reynolds, that's either overnight or out of state, the school committee has to approve it. It's related to Mass General Law.
Thank you.
So I know tomorrow at the Building Needs Subcommittee, we're going to do a more in-depth review, but I thought it would be good for the public for me to just do a quick overview of the kinds of things that have been happening facility-wise in the last 2 weeks. And I guess I would dub it the imperfect storm because it's just a coming together of many kinds of things that in a lot of ways are not related to one another. The Longeau roof has been something that we've been working on, you know, for a long time. We've known that it's there and there's a funding mechanism in place. And actually, we've talked about this study that that we were going to go out to. We now have a company. The study is in progress. So the first step of a process that will then lead to an engineering study, that will then lead to the funding of a roof, that's in place and that's happening. So that's something that's been part of the Building Needs Subcommittee work, the facilities work, and the ongoing looking at Longeau as a building. Then, just this past Saturday night, we had an incident at Longeau that in some ways is weather-related, but it's not ice or snow or any of those kinds of things. It was the heating system that's been running all of our schools. The heating has been running all of the time. And a heating duct in the ceiling of the library then warmed a sprinkler head. And the sprinkler head went off. And the good news is when a sprinkler head goes off, it notifies the fire department. So they immediately were there and shut it off. So in a way, it's weather-related, but it's not from ice or cold or a lack of maintenance or any of those kinds of things. It's just an incident that happened in actually the newest part of the building. The library is an addition that was put on. So we're dealing with that. And I can also tell you that I'm on the email server for all of the superintendents, and there have been incidents like this across the state. In small schools, large schools, old schools, new schools, you know, all things that are dependent on a particular content of the weather. At the Crocker Elementary School, that happened Christmas Day. And because it was a steam pipe, it was not something that was tied to any kind of an alarm system like a sprinkler system would be. So the event was not discovered until December 26th. So a lot of water had already gone into the school. And one of the things that you know when you're in this business is particular events trigger other events. Because we're public schools and because there are, you know, we have all kinds of regulations. One of the regulations is whenever there's an event like this that would either affect floor tiles or ceiling tiles, there's a procedure in place. And it's related to the AHERA law, which is from 1990. And it was a law that was put into effect during the presidency of Ronald Reagan. And it was because there is asbestos in the majority of public buildings, including schools. And the AHERA law said that within 5 years, it would all be removed. Well, here we are, 2018, and I think the number is something like 80% of the schools in the United States still have asbestos in them, which in itself, when treated properly, when encapsulated and all, is not in itself dangerous, but it's when there is an event. So what we had here at Crocker is, this was an event that triggered a whole series of regulations and actions that needed to be taken place, which is why we are now at Passios and St. Anthony's School. At Rheingold, totally different thing happened there. There's a boiler room there, and there is a vent, because boiler rooms, I've learned a lot about HVAC and facilities in the last few years, but boiler rooms need fresh air. Fresh air has to come into the boiler rooms in order for the boilers to perform correctly. So there's a fresh air vent, which had been problematic in the past. That pipe had been all insulated, the pipe that ended up freezing. But that pipe had never experienced 8 straight days of single-digit weather. So just like in a lot of people's homes right now where things are happening, that pipe froze. So it wasn't the heat, it wasn't the sprinkler system, it was a pipe that brought the water into the building. And as a school, you can't have school in a building that doesn't have water. You can have school in a building that doesn't have hot water, but you can't have school in a building that doesn't have water, which is why once we assessed what was going on there, we had to dismiss the school. So you can see that each of these events are very separate kinds of events that have their own causes and are very much a part of the structure of the school or the weather or something else. And then the last event was at the high school, and that is the freezing of some of the sprinkler heads on the top floor of the high school. How many years ago did we have this? Six years ago or so?
6 years ago.
6 years ago, we had something similar to this, and a lot of insulation work was done at the high school. We found that there were vents that, had been rusted open, and those needed to be changed and closed. There were openings up in the roof where cold air normally would come in and it would be fine, but again, like the last 8 days, freezing single-digit cold air coming in through a little crack can make a difference. So that happened at the high school, and it affected one of the sprinkler heads, no, a couple of them, 2 or 3? Several sprinkler heads, and one of them actually ruptured, and we're dealing with that. So I guess I'm just letting the public know, because if it's hard for me to remember and follow, I thought it might be hard for everybody else to remember. So there are a number of buildings, there have been a number of incidents, and I really refer to it as the imperfect storm, because any one of those incidents could happen, and for us, we've been unlucky in the last couple of weeks, and a series of them have happened over time. Those are the lemons. The lemonade is that we had an opportunity to work with our community, another community, and the parish at St. Anthony's. I've said it on some of the publications that I've made. It's been in the articles. We've been so fortunate. First of all, as a superintendent, I was very fortunate that there were 2 schools that were available to house our students. It's unprecedented, I think, that we move 650 students to a new school and only lose 2 academic days because of the 2 snowstorms. So I publicly want to thank everyone that worked on this. The mayor has been on the phone with us through all of this at all hours of day and night, and what that has allowed is we have to work with numerous departments at City Hall. We've worked with the treasurer's office, we've worked with the building inspector, we've worked with all of the purchasing department, because we've had to create leases and set up purchasing and all of that, and it's been very smooth. And we've been able to work with all those departments, and they've cooperated with us, which actually allowed us to do this kind of major initiative in such a short period of time. Because any one of those things, if we came to a roadblock, it could postpone the whole thing. So everyone is settled. We had a great opening for both of our Crocker campuses, Crocker at Pacios and Crocker at St. Anthony's. I was there this morning, and Paula was at St. Anthony's. His parents were dropping them off. Buses rolled. Students got where they were supposed to be. So we're there for the duration, but our goal is to work with all of the agencies and all of the companies that we're working with and get us back into Crocker as soon as possible. So that's kind of a quick summary of the last 3 weeks. So if anyone has any questions.
Questions?
I just have a comment. I think people who are watching should know that I think a lot of the ability for this to go so quickly is that you've done a lot of work in, first of all, in kind of creating a relationship at St. Anthony's and knowing that that is a building that, you know, you might want to look at and need in the Fitchburg Public Schools. So that's such a credit to you. And I think also just the collegiality and the relationship that you have with surrounding communities to be able to reach out and get that contact with Lunenburg, that's just great. So I think this is really an unfortunate situation, but I think the relationships that you and the groundwork that you've done really helped make it go a lot easier than it would have. So I want to thank you for that. I think.
I said my piece earlier, Andrew.
Yes.
But it's true. You know, people think that that we're neglecting our schools, and we're not. This was an unprecedented weather event. Yeah, we're going to meet tomorrow to discuss how we can do things better,
right,
how we can prevent this from happening. But, you know, the world doesn't come to a screeching stop as we demonstrated.
Right.
You know, just phenomenal that within a few short days that, as I said, you pulled a rabbit out of your hat. You really did.
Our
Thank you.
teaching staff, you know, everybody does what they do best, and our teaching staff has been
Yeah,
incredible.
they have
Like
been,
I
that's
said, I
right.
walked through all the classrooms today, really within an hour
Yeah.
of the beginning of the day, teaching was going on in all the classrooms.
Yeah.
We've had a number of phone calls, so I will tell the people at home, people who want to donate books, things like that. So what I'm encouraging people to do is bring them to central office, because we will take everything in. We've got the conference room. We can sort things out and make sure that books go to the schools where the particular grades are. But we will, and there are people who've wanted to make monetary contributions. If they do that, we will put them towards supplies. We're keeping track of everyone who has donated, volunteered, so that at the end of all of this, we will have one large thank you to everyone who has helped us out.
Is there a needs document somewhere? Like, is there something that we could, maybe it's already there, so I'm sorry if I don't know, but is there some, like, central document or, like, website that, like?
There isn't right now, but I think what we'll do is, let's take the week.
Yeah.
We're using the week to kind of figure out, because we've ordered a lot of things that are going to come in.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to do is play this through for a week,
Yeah.
and then at the end of that week say, here's things that we need, and we can post that on our Facebook page and on our district website and say, here are some things that if you'd like to, because people like to
Right.
want to help.
Yeah.
That if you'd like to donate, these are things you can donate, and they can bring them to central office. Okay.
Could I just say thank you to all the teachers in this district for that being able to pull this off, and I think also the parents who have really, it seems like the parents have figured out what they have to do too, and obviously the kids have to go through it. So sorry, don't mean to leave the kids out, but I just think it's really incredible for people to move and just continue teaching in this week. So thanks.
Yeah, I
Yes.
just wanted to congratulate you on how you handled this situation with such grace and composure from what I'm hearing. Obviously, also, I wanted to ask, is there any opportunities maybe we could help volunteer? I know you said that you guys have to sort books or something. You know, if you ever need a helping hand to help you guys with all this, you know, I want to, part of the community, I want to help to, you know, help sort books or anything at all, you know, just you guys
Right, well.
Shoot me an email and
Mr. Quinto is marking that down.
We've got
And
you for 5
we know
different
where
things.
you are. We know how to reach you.
Yes,
So we will
definitely.
definitely do that.
Thank you.
Mayor?
It just generated a thought. What you said is maybe you can do like a video of it can happen. We can all work together or something like that, you know, right as it's going on.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, I think.
You know, and like if other people see students and adults and parents getting involved and helping in the community, that'll like lead a chain reaction. So more people are going to want to get involved, more students. Oh, I'm in the National Honor Society. I can use a community service. I'm benefiting myself and the community, you know, so it's a great opportunity for everyone.
I just want to say that as an adult in the community, I found it very uplifting and a good story, you know. Really, it lifted my spirits to hear about cooperation like this.
There actually is a video that the superintendent made. It's on Facebook, and I shared it on my page. I'm sharing it on Fitchburg Public Schools first. Fitchburg Public Schools does have its own page on Facebook, and that's a great thing. I don't know if you can be on Facebook because you're under 18, but that's one of the things, one of the means of communication. Are you on Facebook? Okay, fine.
They don't even bother with Facebook.
They're looking
Instagram.
Facebook, what's that?
I didn't know
Oh, another idea too. Google Classroom. You know, maybe we can incorporate that. We can talk to like the National Honor Society. They have a Google Classroom. They can put announcements or anything like, oh, community service event. Because I know now that we have Chromebooks, everyone is so like in tune
Connected.
with Google.
Yeah.
So if you want to like help get your voice out, because I know not every student uses Facebook or has Wi-Fi at home, but if you go to school and use your Chromebook, like Google's not blocked, Google Classroom, you know, you can join a, Fitchburg Public Schools Google Classroom page, catch up on events and things like that. I feel like that would be a good idea to kind of get everyone involved, because I understand that not everyone has a phone, not everyone has Wi-Fi at home. You go to school and it's right there.
Yeah.
So that'd be a really good way to get good information, you know, and fast.
No, I didn't. I never even thought about that till you just said it, that
Yeah.
there are some students right now who having the Chromebook and going to school is now giving them access that they
Yeah.
didn't have before.
Yeah.
So like I feel like
Yeah.
I make sure to take that into consideration if I ever want to make something go public, you know. I'm also in the current events club too, and I actually run the bulletin board at our school. So if there's any events you guys want me to like put up there or
Nice.
talk about, I can definitely do that for you guys. So make sure that the students can like walk by and read it and see stuff like that. So that'd be good.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. The video, I believe, was Mr. Garner's idea back there.
Yes.
Thank you. Nicely done. Right?
And I think it's something we're going to do more of.
good.
You know, he brought it up to me last week and said, how about just a short video of you kind of giving people an update?
I've already had comments.
No,
Nice
with
idea.
the videos too, we can broadcast that on our morning announcements. I don't know if you guys have already, but that'd be a good idea too. I know before break they kind of did like a funny skit to like about the rules of like the halls, wandering the halls, and like kids, everyone enjoyed that, and it like got the message across. I feel like that'd be a really good idea too. Like,
Very
keep
good.
going with the videos.
You're hired.
We're going to have a busy year with these two.
I know, this is great, you two.
Two opening school committee coming.
Yeah.
By the way, before we go any further, I want to, some may believe that they've seen her face somewhere before. Ms. Reynolds, Rosemary, thank you for joining the school committee. Many years on the city council. Were you school committee at one time before, too?
No.
No, never, just.
That was my son.
just the okay. So thank you
Yeah.
for willing to give of yourself and service to the community.
Yeah,
We
very
appreciate
happy
it.
to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for
Okay,
this great
thank you.
opportunity.
Thanks, folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're, you know, if you need to go, go.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I'll see you guys the next meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Paul is going to bring you up to date. We talked about the DCAP, our district curriculum accommodation plan, and the upcoming review of the district. So Paula is going to fill you in.
So, welcome to the new year. We have, and this will be new news for Mrs. Reynolds. We are scheduled to participate in a full on-site district and school accountability review. We're working with the Department of Ed to postpone it to potentially the end of April. or later in the year. It was supposed to occur right after February vacation, but it requires significant report generating and documentation. And with everything that's happened with our schools in the past month, we were talking to the Department of Ed today and asked to postpone. We're collecting documents and we're doing all the preparation work, but in reality, our attention is currently on making sure our kids are settled in good educational environments with materials, so our attention is there. On the other hand, timeliness is important because one of the tasks of this review is when the team comes to the district, they will meet for 4 days in the district. They will visit, they'll review documents and files. They'll visit all of our schools on multiple days, and they will conduct focus group meetings when they're here. And one of the focus groups they will meet with will be comprised of school committee members. So I was hoping that by the time we took this to you, we would have a full committee. And so I am concerned about the March date, because one of the tasks you would engage in is looking at the district self-assessment document, so whether that's as the subcommittee or a whole committee, the topics, and there are a number of standards that this review committee will be examining. When they meet with the focus groups, they'll chat with you about those standards and the indicators. So it's a pretty involved process, and I'd like the school committee to be as informed as possible so that when they come and ask you questions, you know what all is involved. One of the documents they look at, or a set of documents they look at, thank you, are the school and district improvement plans. So we've had the principals here to talk to you about that. One of the standards is around curriculum and instruction, and they ask for the district curriculum accommodation plan, hence this document tonight. But there are standards around business and finance, assessment, professional development, and HR, and leadership and governance, and that's your work with the superintendent. So for tonight, it's not something you need to approve, but just something for your perusal. It's really all about the district vision, about how we have aligned our curriculum work with the state standards, how we use data to look at the progress our students make, and the kinds of modifications and accommodations we make in curriculum and instruction to help students who are not on target, or to help accelerate the students who are and need to excel further. So this is, it's the DCAP. Each school should have a curriculum accommodation plan, and those are usually built into their school improvement plans about interventions or accelerated programs. And for example, we have the Ally in the Elementary Honors Program. We have the full suite of AP classes, dual enrollment, and pre-AP classes at the high school. So we have in Fitchburg, we have a very robust, very strategic program of studies that meets learners at every point. Students who need interventions to catch up, students who need acceleration because they're well above grade level, and every student in between. Rowan has amended this most recently to include, and it's in the pages 16 and 17, because of all our work around social emotional learning, to make some explicit ties to that same kind of intervention or acceleration system for academics, to do that, to articulate that same kind of tiered system around the wraparound services for social emotional learning. And then I did include a reference, and that's on page, it's right after that, page 18 and 19, to the Department of Ed's material around a tiered system of support. So this is one of the documents when the team comes in and visits schools. They would be looking for how is this enacted, where would they see it, what would it look like and sound like in classrooms, and this may be one of the items they would talk to you about in a focus group. So over the next series of school committee meetings, we'll share pieces of this. And then I'd be looking for some guidance about, I don't know where, if we wait until the new members are elected to take a look at the self-assessment, or if you'd like to do that at the February meeting. That would be your call. So that's just my brief update on this DCAP and then the proposed, we did get an extension. We do have to do the review this year. We can't extend it to next year, but we're meeting with the Department of Ed on Friday to figure out the logistics of a change in date. Yes?
How often does this happen, did you say?
The review itself happens once every 5 or 6 years to every district in the state. So they have a rotating calendar, yeah.
So this happened here 5 years ago, let's say?
Probably 5 or 6 years ago, yeah. And but the DCAP is a document we review and revise every year or two, depending on the compelling issues around curriculum and instruction. So social emotional learning was a big issue, so we added material for that.
I don't know if this is perhaps an aside, except it dovetails in there somehow. I've been thinking a lot about Fitchburg and its peculiar large amount of students that move in and out of the high school. I've heard the number that, correct me if it's not accurate or nearly accurate, that at any year, 300 students that come in the freshman year, 300 will be leaving. I don't mean freshman year, in the beginning of the year, 300 will be leaving out. And that it seems to me, as not an intimate, knowledgeable person with the workings of the group here, but it seems to me like it's always a burden for Fitchburg, like we're laboring and doing, from the people that work inside, doing well and never getting the recognition for what we're actually up against. And I just kind of would like to flip that and say that we would be the leaders of the country even in coping, rather than always trying to run and catch up, just change our mindset and focus on that and perhaps be the leaders in that one area. So emotional social learning is a component, but I don't know, you could tell me, Superintendent, if we're the leaders in that area or this is generated from some other area and we're...
You do a really good job.
Huh?
I think we were doing it, it's, when I was president of MASS, it was I had it as my goal for the organization for that year. We had already started doing some work in it here, and then that year, we really kicked it all into high gear. But what we found is that, what I found even when I was president that year, that other districts that hadn't started or even looked at it were starving for something, because they were seeing the repercussions in the academics of their schools that were being influenced by the social emotional well-being of their students. So now, it's kind of the norm. I mean,
Right.
Every day we get emails, there are conferences. We've presented, a number of our staff have presented at other conferences about it. So we're kind of at the vanguard of a lot of the things that are going on. We've got our antenna out. And it's because we really have to, because you're right, if you just take the topic you brought up, which is referred to professionally as the churn rate, the number of kids that come and go and come and go, the impact that has on a student, that turmoil, and then the impact that has on a school.
And on the citizens.
And on the citizenry,
Yes,
yeah,
sure.
right, exactly.
So we have the
So-
opportunity to
Yeah.
hone it,
Right.
it's various
So we
components.
do, it's a big focus of the
Yeah.
work that we do. We have, last spring, I put together a task force of teachers and administrators, about 42 people were on that. We then, that went down to a smaller group in the fall. We joined, it was a competitive process to be part of what's called the EXCEL program, SEL, Social Emotional Learning, and we're one of 9 districts across the state that are part of that 3-year
Yeah, with the Rennie Center.
three-year initiative with the Rennie Center. So there are lots of areas that we're very involved.
Okay, and does the SEL that you're referring to, is one component the churning? SEL would refer to all students, right?
It's a whole continuum of issues around social emotional learning. So at one end of the continuum are big issues like the curriculum and systems we use to create a school culture that's supportive but holds students to high expectations. So it would be things like PBIS, which is positive behavioral intervention systems and responsive classroom. So that's very programmatically driven, which are things we do. Second steps, all the way to sort of the other end of the continuum that's very personalized. And we have, for example, clinical interventionists in our schools who work with families and students on a case-by-case basis. We have school psychologists, we have adjustment counselors, we have guidance counselors. We have BCBAs, which are behavioral analysts that help work with very individualized students around specific behavior plans. All of our schools work with outside counseling agencies to bring support into the buildings. And then we have, and you heard I think it was Landon talk about the McKinney-Vento work. We have a McKinney-Vento system, a safety net system for students who experience homelessness. That's a whole sort of separate category around the churn rate. The kids who are either unaccompanied or their families are evicted. So, but we have nurses that are very involved. So it's everything from big programs to individual casework with students, everything in between. So when Andre said our schools present at a number of conferences at state level work, because I think we do an incredible job providing that network, that safety net for kids. So when they come to school, they know there are people they can trust and feel safe with. We hold them to high academic standards. They do well. You heard them, very rigorous academic programming, but they get the support they need, or we help them find it in the community. Because we need them to be ready to learn. If they're hungry or tired or distressed, they're not ready, present, and in place to be successful as students. Part of our job. Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. That's what we do every day.
Okay. Are you all set?
I'm done, yep.
Okay, so school choice, the way it works is that every year you have to set what our school choice guidelines are. Those are the guidelines that say who can apply to school choice into the district. You did that at the beginning of the year, and you did it for all schools, all grades across the district. Right now, because of our enrollment, which has increased and has increased again since the last couple of weeks, I'm asking you to vote again to close school choice from now till the end of the year, except for Goodrich Academy.
Yep.
So that's an item that's on the agenda for you to take an action on. Are there any questions about that?
When you say you'd like to close the school choice except for Goodrich, is that both ways, coming in and going out?
No, we have no control over going out. This is only coming in. So what we're saying now, anyone whose school choice is into the district, when we accept a student on school choice, from whatever grade they school choice in, they're in the district until they choose to leave. So if you school choice someone in kindergarten, they can stay in the district until they graduate. So this is just for any new students wanting to school choice into the district, because our class size is maxed out.
Is it, what is the average class size?
Well, I have and Eva is here, but I have the data. At our elementaries, it's anywhere from, sort of the average at kindergarten is 23, 24, to 27, 28 at grade 4. Our middle schools are 22, 24, 25 at the middles.
Well, we also have more sections of these things, like these schools are, I mean, they're filled to capacity.
They're filled to capacity.
Fill the capacity, right. We
Yeah.
have no more classroom space.
Right. And frankly, with the shift now with Crocker being relocated and Long Joe being relocated to the first 3 floors, with the quarters being what they are, and we get new enrollments every day in the district. I know we've enrolled probably a dozen families in the past week and a half since.
So you're not
vacation.
talking about new enrollments?
New
No, we have
enrollments
no
that who
control
live in
over on it.
Fitchburg certainly come in.
If somebody moves to Fitchburg, they're in.
I
They're
think
in
even
school.
we were talking in the elevator, was it 2 or 3 this week? Enrollment.
Yeah, I placed 3 kids.
3 kids this week. So our local residents are still coming in. This would be school choice from neighboring communities.
So I heard on the radio that Fitchburg received a $5,000
Yeah.
grant.
That's for, so we, if you had over 50 students that came from Puerto Rico that were coming to your district, you received a certain amount of money. So at the cutoff date for that, we had over 50, so the grant that we received was for $5,000. But since that, we've had another 15 or so. Another 16 have come. So.
And they'll be allowed to come.
Yes, well, they're
course,
because
they
they're
live in
living,
Fitchburg.
if you
Yeah.
live in Fitchburg. This is only for non-residents. School choice is for a non-resident choosing to come to Fitchburg.
Well, just when you say you're asking, requesting that it be cut off as of now, what is the time element that somebody takes to arrange to come to make a school choice? If we say yes, cut it off, there's still probably, you've got some people in the pipeline.
No.
Nobody in the
No,
pipeline?
Nobody in the pipeline. And this is only until the end of the fiscal year. So at the end of the fiscal year, I would be coming back to you with a new proposal for a vote for the fiscal year of FY '19, depending on where we are with the budget and class size and everything else, either open it to everybody or you can open some, you can really delineate class, 5th grade, 4th grade, whatever. But right now, the inn is full.
Yes.
So, School Committee Member Reynolds alluded to the fact that the Governor of Massachusetts is dispersing approximately $5,000 for each of the 12 school districts that have gathered up some of these children from Puerto Rico who are attending our public schools. And I would like to point out to the public and to ourselves that that is a very small amount of money per pupil that will be divided to help. I wouldn't.
That's not per pupil.
No.
No.
Yeah.
That when you divide up that $5,000,
Right.
it comes down to less than $100 per student. And if the numbers keep rising, I mean, if you think about that, we never look any gift money in the mouth, but I feel that the governor is not really taking this very seriously. The state legislature and the rest are not taking this seriously, that we are going to have greater needs. I had a very interesting conversation with 2 students from Puerto Rico at the enrollment center on Wednesday, and I got to use my college-level Spanish, which was, very enjoyable for me, but it occurred to me that I am speaking to 2 students that had 0 English. And they were, they looked shell-shocked, these kids. And I'm thinking, multiply that by 5 dozen. I mean, $5,000 does not cover the needs that these kids will have coming into our system. And that needs to be said.
Okay. So that's one item, and then the other item, School Committee Member Reynolds, so one of the things that happens is that anything that's gifted to the school has to be accepted by the school committee. So the things you have on here are donations that have been made, a donation of $20,000, and that is from the NIPRO Foundation. That's not the first time we've received that kind of a gift from them, and it's going to be put towards ESL and the STEM Academy at the high school. So thank you, NIPRO. $1,000 to be used for unified sports, and that's a gift from Special Olympics. $250 to be used for basketball equipment, and that's from National Grid. And Sarah DiGeronimo, thank you. Approval of a donation of $1,000 to go to Lonjo STEM program, and that's from Raytheon, and Patriots Place, for Rebecca Colo, who was selected as STEM Teacher of the Year finalist. And $1,000 came with that, and she's putting it towards the STEM program at Lonjo. So those are all one item on the school choice, and the other items for you to accept as gifts to the district.
Want to bundle them together, committee members, so action items 18-956, up through and including, are we going to include the recommendation to accept the warrant? Is that included as well? It is. Up to and including 18-962. Motion made, do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded to accept action items 18-956 up through and including 18-962. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is unanimous. That's it. No need for executive session. Any comments or questions from the committee? Peter?
Vice chair for vote. For the night.
I would like to, okay. I would like to nominate Mr. Stevens as our vice chair. I don't know whether we need to take a vote as to whether we can move this action item forward without it being on the agenda, or whether we should wait until it's not like anyone's going to
Dispute it?
help, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Procedurally, how should we move forward, because
I think that may be problematic because it's not on the agenda.
So it would be on
So
the
why
agenda.
don't we,
do it next time.
we'll hold for next
Yeah.
meeting.
That way it's all good.
If we could vote on it right now, I would.
Me too.
Mr. Stevens would be outstanding. All right, so let's wait and do that next committee meeting. A motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.